So we finish off season 2. Azula strikes Aang with lightning, right? And then what does Katara immediately do? She beelines it to Aang. Thank you, thank you. Now I want to make a key note about her facial expression. She is in utter shock. Like her crying isn't really like tearing up. I think in the first episode she cried over Aang and stuff like that. So this isn't her first time. But in this specific episode, she is in utter shock and the tears come out of nowhere. This is not something she was expecting. And our beloved Katara is so just good at what she does. What does she do? She beelines it to Aang. She immediately goes to him. Seeing all these different reactions that come to Katara, she's holding Aang in utter tears and still is like, oh my gosh, like to me, this is giving the love of my life just fucking died. Pause for dramatic effect, because literally she just saw her love die. Her love, not the Avatar. I know people are gonna probably argue that it's the Avatar. Oh my god, because that's all Katara talks about. Oh my god, I wonder why that's all Katara talks about. Think about it. If your friend was constantly talking about somebody, wouldn't you think that they probably have a crush on them? I don't know. Is it just me? I don't know. But because Katara always talks about the Avatar, geez. And then she meets the Avatar and geez. Wouldn't one could argue Katara's gloating the hell man the Avatar? Think about that. Take a second. Now I'm gonna make a video arguing some other points later on that has something to do with this one specifically. But let's get back into the video. So Katara is holding Aang and crying. And then we see her on Appa with Aang and everybody's looking. Katara doesn't play about Aang. And that is one thing we know for sure. Two things for certain, right? Now I'm looking at this again and I'm just like, wouldn't it have been great build-up to have, reintroduce this spirit water? If I can recall correctly, and I'm going to rewatch it, but at the moment of me recording this, I can't recall if throughout this whole season after Katara has gotten this spirit water, if it has been talked about. I think maybe actually it has been talked about, but never to an extent of like them introducing the spirit water with Zuko is like great build up for the fact that she ultimately used it on Aang. And I think that is even a great, not like foreshadowing that she would ultimately always choose Aang in every way, shape, and capacity, because that is her love. Mind you, like I had said, she had no reason to have this spirit water for a whole season. She's had it and had no use of it. So now, her bringing the spirit water back into the frame and into scene, we see it as like her ultimately choosing Aang right then and there here. This episode is Kataang. I get the Zutara, but this episode is Kataang. Now, one thing I also want to reference is how Katara is the only one with Aang. Everybody else is watching in the quote unquote waiting room. Katara is a doctor in the quote unquote waiting room. Who is, when you're in the ER, when you're in the hospital room or whatever, the bed, they always say, immediate family, like one or two people get to be in the room with said person. Mostly goes to the spouse, right? So if this was more of a family or a friendly, thing, wouldn't we want to see like Katara on Appa's back and everybody there, like, supporting? No, we see everybody else letting Katara and Aang have their moment. They know how much Aang means to Katara. If nobody else watching can see this, the Avatar team can see this and they can know this. So we see Katara holding on to Aang. She brings him back to life and she's just touching him. She's in shock. Like she just witnessed her love die and she managed to bring him back. She is probably going through a whole lot of internal, stress. That is most likely, this is most likely the epiphany that Katara needed for her to solidify her feelings for Aang. Now, knowing how much Aang means to Katara, I don't think she could ever really had forgiven Zuko. Her feelings by the end when Zuko wanted to come into Team Avatar, Katara doesn't fucking play about Aang. And her being mad isn't like, I want you guys to think about it in a way of like, she is pissed that she trusted this guy and he almost killed the love of her life. So when she threatened Zuko, it's not a threat that he betrayed her trust. It's a threat that he was a catalyst into Aang almost freaking dying. And because Aang almost died, and because if she would have used the spirit water on Zuko, and then Zuko would have betrayed the trust, and then Aang would have ultimately died, this right here, I can't understand it being Zutara. Like, this right here, like, now that I'm talking about it out loud, I'm sitting here and I'm just like, how could one, say that this is what Katara needed? And seeing how this is how the show ultimately went, which we knew this around season 2. Zuko's redemption has been, shown all throughout season 2. For the most part, in little bits and pieces. So and I know it's because Zuko ultimately has good in him, and he has good in him all the time, like even in season 1 and season 2, that we want to give leniency to Zuko. And by no means, like, give him the leniency, he deserves it. But don't take away from that peak moment that, like, man, like, he almost killed Aang. He was the reason that Aang died. And it only makes sense that he would have had to work extra freaking hard to regain Katara's trust. Point blank, period. So by the end of the episode, right, Aang is alive. And then, the last scene, I believe, is when they're flying up on Appa and the Earth King says the Earth Kingdom has fallen or whatever, right? We see Katara and Aang in the front. Katara holding on to Aang. And I want to make it clear, especially in that scene, Katara doesn't look that much older than Aang. They look very close in age. They look like they are in a similar age. And this could also be like Katara not being as old as people make her out to be. That's it. That's the end of season 2, episode 18, the last episode of the season. That is where we leave off. That is all that. Now, let us segue into season 3, episode 1. Aang wakes up. Aang wakes up! Book 3, episode 1, The Awakening. Aang wakes up. So we see this scene play out. Aang is waking up and he's still kind of injured. He has bandages on. He has hair, right? This is what we visually see. He assumes that he's on a Fire Nation ship. So he assumes these are Fire Nation soldiers and he proceeds to airbend, which is noticeably weak. So we know Aang is weak, but we also know he's been mended. He didn't have these bandages on at the end of season 2. He now has them. He has been taken care of. By who? Think about it. I'm gonna give you a minute. Exactly. Who's the first person to hug Aang? Katara. So I love this scene so much because a lot of the things that I have been talking about, I have been talking about it from an adult perspective, but I also want you guys to think about it when you were a child. Think about when you were a kid in middle school, especially going on into this scene, right? So we see Aang asking all this question, and he's surrounded by the people, his friends and his loved one, right? Appa is there. Now, someone comes and puts on a cloak onto Aang, and Aang proceeds to start asking all these questions. Now we see Toph, and I'm assuming that's Sokka. It looks like a Sokka build. Go, and as soon as Aang is questioning everything, Sokka then goes to Toph and signals them to leave. I love this. Now, I'm going to have this conversation again and again and again. And this is not the first time you're going to hear me say what I'm about to say. But who knows Katara the most out of Team Avatar? I'm going to give you guys a second to think about. Could be a couple of people, right? Who do you think would know Katara the best? Her brother. Her older brother Sokka knows Katara the best. And this is gonna be key when I talk about the first episode. When I get there, I'm not there yet. I started late, but after this video, I'll talk about the first episode. So stay tuned for that. But who knows Katara the best? Sokka. So now that we can all agree that Sokka knows his little sister so well that he let her have some alone time with the love of her life, right? Now, Aang, they have some privacy. They are talking. Aang has been sleeping for a while. And what's like the first thing Katara says to Aang? Stop. I like your hair. Come on, guys. Like, we're obviously not watching the same show if you could say that fucking Katara needed to end up with Zuko. She goes to Aang, I like your hair. She's fucking flirting. She is flirting with Aang. And she's literally, like, kind of shy about it. You know? Sokka picks it up on it because they're in the same age. Like, that's her little sister. That's his little sister. Of course he's gonna know that she likes him, right? And I know that the show didn't make it so blatantly clear about Katara's feelings for Aang, and I'm gonna make another video on that as to why, and we'll talk about Katara's personality type into how she shows affection, right? So boom, she goes, I like your hair. Oh my god, I love this scene. And then Aang's like, I have hair? So she's subtly flirting with him. And as she's flirting with Aang, who comes into the scene? Her dad. Her dad comes into the scene when she's talking to her crush. Guys, come on. So Katara is snappy with her father. Now, you guys can't sit here and tell me that that's not how a teenager, a middle schooler would act if they are having a conversation with their crush and their parent walks in. That is literally out the freaking book. That is exactly how that conversation would go in real life, right? Some of you guys might be parents now after 20 years after watching this show, and you'd be like, yeah, you know, like, I either acted like that when I was a kid, or two, I'm pretty sure my future kids or your future kids would act like that when they get to that certain age. So we can't sit here and be like, yeah, no, she's upset. She's having this alone time with her crush, and her dad walks in. So she's like snappy. And then after he leaves, and how does Hakoda react? He's not upset or anything. He's just like, I guess you're right. And then leaves. He knows what's up. He knows what's up. Y'all, the viewer, don't know what's up. Y'all, the viewer, are not, like, watching. We're not watching the same show. So, after and then what does Katara say? What does Katara say after they introduce each other, right? I'll play the scene. So Katara goes to her dad. Would you mind giving us a little privacy? Oh my god. And then Aang asks Katara, are you angry at your dad or something? Because Katara is visibly like snappy at her dad. And she says, no, not at all. Why would you think that? We're not watching the same fucking show. Oh my gosh. So Katara then proceeds to take Aang upstairs for a healing session. They're playing doctor. They're not playing. She's actually a doctor, but you know. So Katara has very intimate moments with Aang, and I feel like these could have gotten mixed up in our brains as kids. Now as adults, we can watch this and be like, that is so funny. And one of the things that I have realized as I've gotten older, and I'm sure all of us have this similar experience, that whenever we watch a show that we would watch as a kid, we would see a lot of things that have gone over our heads. A lot of the jokes that would be made in these early cartoons that weren't intended for the kids, they were intended for the parents that's watching what the kids are watching. This is one of those moments, you know? And as an adult now watching this back, like, it's so funny. It is so funny. And as a kid, I always loved Kataang. I love a trope where the guy works so hard for the girl. That is one of my favorite tropes. And one of my next videos, I love talking about this. I have more to add on, but I'm gonna leave it here for now. And the next video, or one of the next videos that I'll do, is that I want to reference other media to explain Katara more as a character, as to why her and Zuko never would have worked. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching this video. I love talking about it. Let me know your comments down below. I could talk about this forever. Are you team Zutara? Are you team Kataang? Has this video made you see Kataang in a different light? If so, I really want to hear that. Put your comments down below. Tag any creator that disagrees with me or that wants to be a part of this conversation. I'm here for it. Thank you guys. Happy yip yapping.